Hi, I'm Carrie Rollwagen, host of The Localist. What you're about to hear is a live recording from one of our Localist Lab events. This is when we bring in experts to talk about practical insights on marketing for small businesses. This session was recorded in front of a live audience, so you may hear some room noise and some shuffling around during the Q&A, but hopefully that just makes you feel more like you were actually there. For more background on the speaker or to view slides from the event, check out our show notes, or you can also grab a ticket there to our next event. I hope you enjoy this conversation. Thank you so much for being here. I'm Carrie Rollwagen, and I am the host of the Localist podcast and also author of the Localist book and host of Localist Lab, which is what we are at today. So a Localist Lab is the live version of the Localist podcast. On the Localist podcast, we tell stories of small business owners. So we have different small business owners on. We ask them how their business got started and then also how they get through the trials and tribulations of owning a small business. And then here at the lab, we get a little more practical. So I invite experts that I've worked with before to come and talk about tips and tricks for anybody running a small business, working for a small business, any of that. So this event is sponsored by the Lavoie family of companies. So that includes Infomedia, where I also work, Tempo Websites, Uptick Marketing, and Infomedia Studios. So you can see we have some banners around, so they're represented around the room too. At Infomedia, we work on complex digital strategies. So that's if you have a large business, a business that's kind of existed for several years and you have some complex needs, we want to help you with your website and your digital strategy. Tempo Websites does the same thing for smaller businesses, newer businesses, maybe like a law firm or a medical firm that's pretty small. Tempo is a great solution for you. And then we also have Uptick Marketing, which works with all sizes of businesses. And then Infomedia Studios is an arm of Infomedia that does photo, video. We also do podcasting. So if you want a podcast like The Localist, you can actually record in our exact same studio. And also, if you want some social media clips that kind of look like a podcast, but you don't want to commit to a full podcast, we can also help you with that. But our guest today is actually going to be from Uptick. Our guest is Laine White. Yeah. Yeah. So Laine is a marketing consultant for Uptick, and that means she works with small businesses every single day. So I thought she would be perfect for this topic. So this topic is small business mistakes and how to fix them. So welcome, Laine. Thank you.
All right, guys, we're going to try to not all be driven insane by this sticky floor. So if you see me making weird reactions, it's because it jars me every time. But that's the best thing about being at Saturn is this is also a music venue, and it's super fun that I get to be here to not do music. Little me would have thought I would have been up here for other reasons, but here we are. So obviously, today we're talking about why your small business marketing may not be serving you so well and how to kind of get that back under control, okay? Maybe you're starting a business, maybe you already have a thriving business, maybe you've had a business for a long time and it just seems like you can't quite keep up with some of the big budgets that are out there, and I'm really excited to talk with you guys about it. So as Carrie said, my name is Laine. I am a marketing consultant and innovation strategist at Uptick Marketing, and so what I do is all day I talk to people like you and help them avoid really expensive marketing mistakes and solve really tough marketing problems. I came from a background that was not marketing, spoiler alert. I did not get a degree in this, but I want to tell you guys a little bit about why I'm here today and why I do know at least a little bit about what I'm talking about. I have worked with small businesses in Birmingham, including my own, for many, many years. You can see some of the logos up here from some of the ones I've worked with. I started my own photography business in college, and that's really when I fell in love with marketing because, as you guys know, if you own a business, you got to get it out there, right? I also was a general manager at an escape escape room for a long time. I've worked at some really funky places and got to do marketing there, and I did some marketing as a marketing director at Mason Music. That's where I spent a lot of time in this room on the photography side of things, funny enough. And I also still work with Bustle as a creative director and operations consultant. And the reason I share all of that is because I want you guys to understand that I have very much so walked the small business walk alongside some really exceptional business owners and also on my own. And the thing is, like I said earlier, I did not get a degree in marketing, okay? I did what many of you have done, which is try to figure out how to market my own business or market businesses of people I care about. And I did it from the ground up. I did the podcasts, I did all the YouTube videos, I did courses, I paid people to coach me. And now I do this full time at a marketing agency. So I now work with businesses of all sizes with budgets far larger than many of us will ever have. And the thing is I've noticed a lot of patterns because what my actual degree is in is psychology. I think about the way people's brains work and why they make the choices that they do. And that pattern kind of recognition of what is it that people are doing and why they're doing it, that is what really excites me. And the other big thing that I really care about is data, okay? I'm a big believer in intuition. It matters and it's important. I'm an ENTP for any of you Myers-Briggs people out there. I do appreciate intuition, but our brains lie to us on a regular, consistent basis because our brains are really efficient, okay? Our brains are geared towards trying to use the least amount of effort possible whenever making a decision or doing something, and so it's really hard to break our brains out of that habit. At Birmingham Southern, RIP for those of you who know, at Birmingham Southern, that's what I focused on and that's what I studied. And again, I share all this because I want you guys to know that one, you don't have to have a degree in marketing to be good at it, and two, there's a lot of things that we can learn from all the small businesses and big businesses that we've worked with, okay? Unfortunately, I would love to be able to tell you that there's like this one magical secret that I could give you today that would save your small business marketing and make it super easy for you for the rest of your life. That is just unfortunately not the case. There realistically is no one marketing tactic that will serve your business to that level, right? There's just not one. Now, there is a pattern, though, that we can talk about, and that's what I want to share with you guys today, is there is one framework that is essential for your marketing success. There are 3 questions that I'm going to ask you guys today. They're not very complicated, but when you start listening to these 3 questions and putting them in your brain and saying them over and over and over again about everything you do in marketing, you're going to realize very quickly where you have gone wrong before and where you have spent money and time and energy in the wrong places before, and now I'm going to help you figure out how to not make those same mistakes again, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and show you my whole talk right now. This is the whole presentation. These are the 3 questions, okay? These are the 3 questions that I want you to answer, and I don't even have to look at the notes or the screen for this because I say these 3 questions all the time. My coworkers in the audience will agree that I'm kind of annoying about this. So here's your 3 questions. Is it clear what you're selling? Is it clear why they need to buy? And is it clear what they need to do next? That's it. That's the whole presentation. We can be done now, right? Right? No? Okay. Just kidding. I'll walk you through it a little bit. There's a reason, though, that these are the 3 most important questions you can ask yourself every single day. Our agency, we do this again, like I said, for big businesses, small businesses of all size, all the time. We think about these questions every single day. I look at almost all of my clients, like websites, the ads they run, the copy they write. I look at it before it goes out the door. It's part of my job. And this is what I ask myself. Is it clear what they're selling? Is it clear why their customer needs to buy? And is it clear what to do next? And there's a reason why this matters, okay? So I told you I love the data. I'm going to share with you a little bit of an insight from more of like a study that was done by the Nielsen Norman Group. And I pulled this quote out because I thought it was really helpful. You don't just have to take my word for this. There's a reason that I'm telling you these things, okay? So to gain several minutes of user attention, you must clearly communicate your value proposition in 10 seconds. 10 seconds. That's a really short amount of time. And the reason I want you to think about that is because this is for websites specifically. That's really what this kind of quote was in reference to. But when you're running an ad or you're putting out a social media post, often you have less than that to hook someone. And what that means is in 10 seconds, someone is making a decision, and often less, someone is making a decision on whether or not you are worth attending to in their brain, you're worth paying attention to, or their brain says, this is a waste of my time. And I'm efficient, remember? Brains are efficient. They don't want to waste time. So if in that 10 seconds you don't hook them with clear answers of what you're doing, why it's valuable to them, and what they need to do next, you've lost the game, okay? So I'm gonna show you this in action so you guys know what I'm talking about, because I think a lot of marketing people will be like, here's something that sounds really great, and you're gonna be like, wow, that sounds really logical, but it doesn't actually mean anything until you do something with it, right? So let's start, okay? Is it clear what you are selling, or do your customers have to guess? We're gonna do a little exercise together, okay? I want you to look at this AI mock-up that we made of a website. I didn't feel like being brutal and hurting anybody's feelings today, so I didn't use any actual real-life people for this. But trust me, we do this in office all the time. All of us will sit around and get a new website and look at it, and we always go straight to the primary thing, the primary text, the H1 for those of you who work in websites, on a website. And in this one, it's your dog's new best friend. That's cute, right? I feel like most of you would see this and be like, wow, that's a really great start. I think we're really headed towards somewhere. Okay, but here's the question. What does this business do? You don't have their logo, so sorry, you don't get that. What'd you say? Frisbees. Okay, someone says frisbees. You can keep yelling out. What else do we think they could be? Okay, joint health. All right, I like it. You're seeing there's a wide discrepancy here between option 1 and option 2. Maybe we even assume that dogs are super involved, and maybe it's dog boarding, or maybe it's dog walking, or maybe it's a vet, maybe it's a groomer. The point is, this has been a lot longer than 10 seconds and we still don't know what they do, okay? I actually asked it to make a website for a dog walker, and this is a great example of how just, even though it's a really cute, fun headline, no one really knows what this business does, okay? And you're probably thinking, but Laine, obviously, if they are searching for a dog walker and they end up on this website, they know that you're a dog walker. And yeah, that's true. Most people are smart enough, but I'll tell you, people don't read, for one, and two, often that's not how people land on your website, okay? Maybe they see a QR code you put somewhere, or maybe they see a social post, or maybe a friend of theirs sends a link and says, hey, I love these people, check them out. Every microsecond that your brain spends not knowing what's going on is an opportunity for that person to give up. And sure, maybe 5 out of 10 people who land on this website will say it's a cute photo and a cute slogan, but what about the other 5? I'm in the business of numbers, y'all. We don't have time to waste money on 5 out of 10 when we could be getting 10 out of 10, okay? Now, there's a lot of mistakes people make in regards to making it clear what they're selling, because some of you're like, well, I very obviously tell people what I do, okay? But there's other things that I see that people mess up here, okay? One of the big ones is jargon or lingo for your industry. It's really hard to get out of this, and I'm telling you, the big businesses really, really struggle with this, especially because they talk in their jargon and their lingo all day long, okay? I'll use Uptick as an example. We sell SEO services, search engine optimization, okay? And when I talk about SEO to my clients, I don't say SEO or search engine optimization, unless, of course, they bring it up to me first. Most of the time, what I say is, we're gonna help you get found online, because otherwise no one will find you. That's clear. They know exactly what I'm saying, and their brain doesn't have to work a whole lot to get to the bottom of that. Now, SEO is a little easier because a lot of us in this room probably at least know roughly what it is, but there are terms and jargon and lingo in your business that you may be using, and I see this a lot of times when people are trying to be fun and cool and interesting. They'll have some kind of phrase for a package they have, like this, the, I don't know, elite package. What does that mean? It means nothing, okay? I'm not saying you can't label things or have your own proprietary names, but you always have to keep in mind that if people are reading something they don't immediately understand, you're missing an opportunity. So, we're not all Nike. We don't all get to put our logo up and people immediately know exactly who we're talking about, okay? Nike is one of the few people who gets to just put up that little Nike swoosh and everybody knows, okay, I know who we're talking about, I know what they sell, and I know why I want to buy that, right? But we don't exist in that world, so we have to do things a little differently, okay? Design also really does matter here, okay? Because while with design, I often say, because I'm a very data-driven person, the worst mistake you can make in design is confuse your person. Usually great design in terms of fun, aesthetic, bells and whistles, interesting things aren't gonna close the deal for people unless you're in a very design-heavy industry, right? If you're a designer, yes, that matters. If you're in a fashion space, yes, that matters. But for most people, it just needs to be clean, easy to read. Yes, it needs to be beautiful. You don't want it to look bad. But as long as you kind of meet that minimum threshold, you're good. So don't start throwing a ton of bells and whistles in here that are going to distract from the overall message. I do see this a lot, and I think Infomedia and Tempo do a great job of not making this mistake, but other website companies sometimes do, is it's there's some really cool stuff when you scroll on a website and it pops up all those little fancy things. Those things can be fun. I'm not saying you cannot do them. It's where your personality comes comes out. But if there's so much of that I no longer know what you do and I can't easily find your menu or your CTAs, you're missing an opportunity, okay? You gotta make it clear what you're selling, okay? We get it? We tracking? This one's an easier one, okay? Now, we need to make it clear why they need to buy, because if not, then we're asking them to assume. I'm gonna use this example here, another AI mock-up of an HVAC company ad, and you guys have probably seen ads very similar to this, okay? It's not that great. It says, keep your cool, which is a cute little pun. It's kind of breaking my earlier rule. And then it says at the bottom, contact us for all your HVAC needs. I don't know if you guys can see that super well. So that's basically what this ad is doing. I see ads like this on Facebook or Google or whatever all the time, okay? And what people are going for here is brand awareness, getting their name out in front of a ton of people so that when they think, oh my gosh, my AC is broken, they're gonna call you. Well, here's the problem with that in the AC example, okay? So maybe they think of your business name, but when they go to Google you, which is what most people do, or even ChatGPT, Grok, Gemini, whatever you wanna use, if they go to search for you, what's going to happen is some people, your competition, is paying for that paid search spot right above you. And what those people are doing is they're trying to get in front of your traffic and steal it right out from underneath you. They've got the budgets, trust me. These people are spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on Google Ads every month. And I don't know about your small business, but my small business certainly could not have afforded that. So how do we get around that? What do we do? There's nothing we can do to get up and compete in front of those people with the budgets that we have. Well, the problem is you're relying on them looking for just you, but they don't know why they want to work with you. Right now, with this, they just say, okay, well, it's an HVAC company. They keep me cool, obviously. If your HVAC company is not keeping you cool, they're doing a terrible, terrible job. Now, what we may not know is that this HVAC company actually has some of the highest ratings of any reviews ever in town. Like, they're consistently getting 5 stars. Or maybe they have like an on-time guarantee where they are confident that they're gonna be at your front door ready to serve you and on time and get all of the stuff knocked out, and they get it done in 2 hours, okay? That would be a value proposition. That's a reason why I want to work with this company. That's a reason why if I go to Google and I see all those other competitors, if I see them, it doesn't matter what they're selling because I already have a reason I want to work with these guys, okay? Now, this doesn't just apply to ads. This also applies to your social media posts. This also applies to your website. This also applies to how you talk to people, okay? And here's the thing, this is a big pet peeve of mine. You can't just say you're great at what you do because obviously you should be great at what you do. Most consumers assume that if you are in business, you probably are good at what they're coming to you for. And you can talk about things like I've been in business for 15 years or something like that. I think it mattered a little more a while ago. Now there's so many cool, interesting new businesses that we love that are doing things better than businesses that have been in business for a long time, that's not even the value proposition we really think it is, you know? Now, what you have to do is speak to what the customer needs. What is it that they're frustrated about? In the HVAC example, we've all probably been frustrated by them not showing up on time or hidden fees or something. You gotta dig deeper than just, we keep you cool. Because, yeah, you better, you know? So you want to think about what makes you special, different, unique, and give some urgency if you can. You know, this is where your sales can come into play. I always love when there's like some kind of a, if you click this ad or if you do something here, then you get something in return, you know? People are pretty selfish online, so it's fair to do that. But again, the goal is to make it clear why they need to buy, and they don't need to have to do a whole lot of work to figure that out, okay? Now, here's sort of the third and most obvious thing is it clear what they need to do next? And this is sort of a bad example only because you're not going to see a ton of websites that look like this with virtually no CTA on it. That's what's missing. I'm going to go ahead and tell you. There's no button on here that says book now with whatever this landscape company is. But there's also another trap that a lot of people fall into. They know they're supposed to have buttons or they know they're supposed to ask for something, but they don't really know what to ask for and where it should go, okay? So in this example, I often will see a little button right underneath that text in the middle there, but it'll say learn more. The problem is, in most cases, they know that they can learn more. They're on a website, they know. And I'm not saying you can't have that button. There are certainly times where it's appropriate, but really what this landscape company wants you to do is get a quote, book, schedule a consultation, send an email, something. You've got to give people your high-value action, whatever it is. If you're in e-commerce or you're selling a product, it's here's the link to buy, not go find us online, okay? anytime you put friction in between your buyer and where they're headed, you are risking the opportunity or losing the opportunity to grasp them, okay? I always use me as an example with my clients that I have a 5-year-old, and even when I work from home and lock the door, she's notorious for being able to figure her way out into the room that I'm in. That's why I don't often work from home. And the issue is sometimes I'll be really in the middle of something, and she'll come up and grab onto my shirt, and I completely lose track of where I'm at, okay? Sometimes it'll be you get distracted by a phone call. Sometimes it's just your Wi-Fi goes down, okay? Every single minute, every single millisecond, realistically, that you are adding to the buying process, your buyer is being given an opportunity to fall off, to drop off, to go somewhere else. That's what we want to avoid, okay? So remember I talked about brains are efficient. They want to know exactly what to do next. What happens when you have to hunt for what to do next is your brain starts being like, whoa, 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 whoa. This is a lot of work for me. I'm not sure it's worth it anymore. Our brains don't like to do that, okay? So you want to make it obvious. A lot of times when I'm sharing these kinds of things with people, they're like, you're sort of acting like our buyers or our customers are dumb, and that's not super fair. I mean, I don't think that about most people, but here's the thing, guys. People online are. Even in your smartest, most intelligent, brilliant person, you get on a website, you're thinking in what I like to call your lizard brain back here, which is not very smart. It's like, is there something to feed me, or is there something that's going to take away from my opportunity to eat? And it really is as simple as that. Now, for most of us, it's like, well, could I be scrolling TikTok instead? Or do I need to answer this work email instead? Or is this just a good use of my time? I don't want to do this anymore. And those are the opportunities where people can drop off. So I don't want you to give them that opportunity. If you're posting on social media, put that link in your bio. Don't put it in the caption. Don't do it on Instagram. You do it on Facebook. Give them something to do. If you're talking about something in your stories and you're saying, we have an event coming up, I'd love to see you, put the link there, the Eventbrite link, if you will, something like that. You gotta give them something to do. You don't always have to say your CTA so aggressively if you don't want to. If you're a brand, it feels a little uncomfortable or unnatural to post on social media and every post say, something like book now or call me today or something like that. You can still do soft CTAs. I'd love to chat with you. My DMs are always open. That feels a little more organic or natural, but you're still giving people something to do. This stuff really, really matters. I'll quote our social media manager, Elling, in this. She always says that every single social post that you make is an ad, because it is. If someone shares it or sends it to someone else or puts it in front of someone, or I DM stuff to my husband all the time, I'll be like, look at this, right? That becomes an ad in that moment. And if you didn't make it clear in everything that you post or everything that you communicate, what you're selling, why it's valuable, and what to do next, you're missing out, okay? So I want to give you an example. We're going to look at my husband's business, actually. He did say I could share about this, so I didn't do this without his permission. But my husband's a car detailer, okay? You probably wouldn't know that from looking at this logo. We sort of broke all of my rules. I didn't have these rules then, okay? I hadn't come up with it yet then. So my husband did what a lot of small business owners do, is he started with a dream, okay? He started with, oh my gosh, I'm so excited about this vision I have. He had been seeing the best in the business doing it first. That's usually how we start, is we see somebody that makes it look really easy online and we say, okay, great, I can do that too. And so he said, I'm gonna have this business for my car detailing business. It's gonna be called Wash Nation. And one day I'm gonna scale this business so big, I'm gonna have it in every market all across the country, and it's gonna be amazing. I imagine a lot of you business owners are dreamers in that way, because that's how we do it. That's how we start our businesses, is we have some kind of a dream, okay? But the problem was he was thinking about what was cool, what was fun, what was interesting, what would catch his eye, and he was thinking about it the wrong way, okay? And he did. He ran his business like this for a while. He still had a full-time job at the time, but it wasn't just kind of taking off or picking up steam the way we wanted it to, okay? And we were really trying to figure out, what can we do to get people to understand what we do, why we do it, why we're great at it, that kind of a thing, okay? Now, I'm going to be honest here. We were a little committed to the bit on these 3 questions with what his future business name is. Those of you who know it, you're going to start laughing in a minute. But you don't have to be quite on the nose, quite so on the nose as we were when we made my husband's business name. So you can laugh at this if you need to. This is what his business name is now. I clean cars. I'm glad you laughed. This is the punchline. So now, you're probably like, okay, well, I know very clearly what he does, and I'm showing you his Google business profile and his website. It's actually an old iteration of his website. His new one needs to talk to me a little bit because it's got some work to be done. But on here, you can see, and you may not be able to read this, it says, "Hi, my name is Tucker. I clean cars wherever you are." He's a mobile detailing service, yeah? And that text underneath you may not be able to read, but it says, "I'm here to make your life easy and your car feel brand new." And the reason for that is because that is the biggest compliment he gets every single time he cleans someone's car is, "Oh my gosh, you made my car look better than it's ever been. It feels brand new," okay? That's his value proposition. So is it clear what he's selling? Golly, I hope so. If you don't know that he does some kind of car cleaning after looking at this logo, then I don't know how to help you, right? Is it clear why we need to buy? Probably because he comes to you, he makes your life easy, and also he makes your car feel brand new. And is it clear what to do next? I'd say so. It says book your cleaning, right? And there is more information on his website, and there is more things more conversations that need to be had. You don't have pricing yet. That's going to be your next question, obviously, But at the end of the day, this has been wildly successful for him, and he has not spent a single dollar on his advertising, much to my dismay, even though I've tried to talk him into it a few times. In fact, almost all of his business, which is now equivalent to the work that I do in terms of our family income, comes from that Google business profile, okay? That Google business profile works so well for him, and it ain't even that fancy or pretty, but it works great in his industry and for his business. And so since we've named this as his business, he has a hat that says it, his car has some magnets on it that say it because it's his little detail mobile, and even his license plate tag now says "I clean cars," just because we had to be a little extra. But let me tell you, the number of people that stop him in a grocery store and say, "You clean cars. Can I have a business card?" That didn't happen when it was Wash Nation. Nobody said that. Nobody cared, okay? And they immediately know exactly what he did. Now, I do a little bit worry about the "I clean cars" sounding like when everybody made it lowercase I something in the Apple days when everything was that. So maybe this will be dated at one point in time. But the point, even though it's so silly, the point is there and clear. You've got to make it clear what you're selling, clear why someone needs to buy, and clear what to do next. So I want you guys to think about how to apply this, okay? Because I've given you a lot of thought and a lot of theory, but now you're probably like, okay, well, what do I do with that, okay? So first, what I want you to do is I want you to look at all the big picture externally facing things, okay? So the things like your website homepage, or the first email you send out on an email list, or the cover images on your LinkedIn profile or your Facebook page, or the bio in your Instagram caption, okay? The first pinned post you have on your social media, whatever it may be. And I want you to ask yourself, is it clear what I'm selling? Is it clear why they need to buy? And is it clear what they need to do next? And then I want you to go further in your advertising. If you're running ads, is that clear in every single thing that someone sees? If it's not, you are wasting your time and your energy and your money. I consulted with a couple of clients this week who I was really encouraging them. They were owning a small business. They were working on their social media, and they asked me about all these tactics for social media and the algorithms and all these things. We went really deep, and I sent them home with a list of things to do, and it was a big list of here's all the things you could be doing. Here's a content calendar. Here's a list of content ideas, and they went home and they worked on it for a couple of weeks. And at our next meeting, we sat down, and I was like, okay, today, I have 3 rules for you. I want you to do all the things that you have been doing, but from now on, I want you to make it clear what you're selling, clear why they need to buy, and clear what they need to do next, because those are the things that matter. All right, guys. I am very curious if you have any questions, because I imagine there are quite a few, and we can get specific. Carrie may want to talk.
Yeah. Sorry. I was supposed to tell you this at the beginning, but you can also submit questions through Instagram. So we're going to take questions from the audience like we always do. But also, if you follow me on Instagram, it's Rollwagen, so like Carrie Rollwagen. So if you're an introvert and you still want to submit a question, go ahead and do that, and I'll give those questions to Laine too. So yeah, I'm going to repeat the question for the video, or try to remember to, and then Laine's going to answer.
Sounds good. Now's your time. You can ask questions if you want to.
Yes, and then we actually do have some on Instagram. So I'm going to ask the first question will be, how do I find my value proposition? Because you mentioned that.
Yeah, so that's a great question. One of my favorite tricks for this, and I sort of already cued you into this is to look at people's reviews about your business and see what is it that they latch onto and talk about, because usually if people are talking about something, it's because they care. But if you're early on and you don't have a ton of reviews yet, then I want you to like step back a little bit and think about the problem that you're trying to solve, okay? In the HVAC example, it's not get colder, okay? Because there's a lot of other people that do that too. It needs to be the problem that you need to solve and how you do it differently from anybody else in your industry. I feel confident for most businesses, there's something that you say, nobody else does this. I don't know why they don't do that. It's so dumb. I see this a lot in the service-based industry because a lot of times it's like, why don't they just let you book online? I have some friends who own businesses that are like that, and they make it really easy to book online, right? Now, you're gonna have to talk to people and talk to your friends. I should have said that earlier about all of this. Your friends and family are a great test of if you're making it clear what you're doing and why it's valuable, and they can also help you with your value proposition as well. So lay them out what you think they are, and then try to take it one step further to get into the like emotional drivers for people, and that can really help. StoryBrand is also a great resource in that regard. Okay, so we got the question of what happens if it seems like you're pretty much doing the same thing that everybody else has done. And that is tricky, okay? A lot of the times there is still something that you're doing that you could tease out. But in the case where, say you're doing the exact same model as everybody else, then you show it just as much as you tell it, okay? So if you're really easy to work with, be easy to work with, right? If you are really likable and friendly, be likable and friendly on your website, on your social posts, on those kinds of things. Also, this is where social proof really comes into play. If you're struggling to come up with something that you feel confident saying is different about you, then let your audience or your reviewers say it. And social proof can show up in a couple of different ways. It can both be a marketing tactic of encouraging people to share about you for some reason, or it can also be just putting reviews on your website or something like that. But I mentioned StoryBrand earlier. I do think StoryBrand is a really great tool for those of you who don't know. It's written by a guy named Donald Miller. You don't even necessarily have to read the whole book, although it is really good. There's some great, I'll send you a link for your newsletter. There's a great like one-liner exercise workshop that you can do that'll help you kind of tease that out. And sometimes it does take sitting down with an expert to help you push. There is something special about what you do, even if it's just that you do it better than anybody else. So sometimes you just got to tease that out. What other questions?
Well, we have a question from Instagram. So it is for a small business with a really limited budget, which I love that you included that because I think so many of us, like we came to a free talk, we need the free tacos, and we want to do this ourselves too. Where should they focus first?
Yeah. Okay, this is great. So I often think about operational strategy. It's like this other half of my brain that exists, and that's from all my like management experience and stuff like that. And often it's not just your dollars that matter, it's also the hours that you spend doing things that matter, okay? So I'm gonna think about both of those because stuff that's cheap or free often will take you a lot of hours. So you gotta find something that's in the sweet spot of, okay, it's something I can either afford to do, both time or money-wise, but it's also something that's practical for me to do, and it's not gonna kill me with all these hours, right? So I often suggest a couple of like easy starter free things that anybody can do, which is things like setting up a Google business profile, right? I mentioned that earlier. Not every business is gonna benefit from that the way my husband's business will, but if you're a local business, if you have a brick and mortar, you have to have that. It is non-negotiable, especially with all the AI stuff that's happening right now. AI loves it, some Google business profiles, okay? So you should have those kinds of things there. Now, leverage your community. That is one of my favorite tips and resources for local businesses. I think Cala Coffee, look, I'm repping them today. I'm a big fan of Cala, if you didn't know. Cala Coffee is exceptional about this, okay? They have lots of events with other local partners that already have a similar target audience, and boy, they have blown up, and you can barely get in the door sometimes. There's a line out the door this morning, and that's a regular, what is today, Thursday? It's a regular Thursday for them because they leaned on their community. So they have run paid ads before, sure, But they also see a lot of traction and results from hosting events or collaborating with other local people that do cool things. I was there this morning and I saw there's like an indie bookstore event that's coming up, okay? So they're bringing in other people who have established businesses. They're using something that they have for free, which is their space, and they're leveraging that together. So before you even spend a little bit of money, I would start there. Now, if you do have a little bit of money to spend, I think that something small, and depending on your industry, but something small like a social ad, you can kind of get in for a little bit of a cheaper price there. But the thing I'm going to tell you is it's a lot more complicated than you think it is. Half the reason that I work at Uptick Marketing is because I was a marketing director and I pretty quickly realized I don't know what I'm doing in the digital ad space and I need to figure that out real quick. And I had to contract with Uptick to help, right? Because it's really challenging to do some of those things. So if you have a small budget, I would think more about leveraging that budget to build community and friends and neighbors who are going to talk about you and, you know, maybe pay for an event space or something like that. That is going to be more tangible and memorable for people, and you're going to get a ton of content out of those kinds of things too. If you have what I affectionately call a boring business, which is that like not as easy to have like cool, fun, hip, trendy events, then I think you network in other ways and you can still build that community. It just looks a little more corporate and professional than Cali Coffee gets to look. There's a lot more about that, and I do on my LinkedIn, I'm going to shamelessly plug my LinkedIn. I do regularly post ideas for things like that, and I think I actually made a post sometime in the last few months about like, here's like 3 free things you can do this month to promote your small business if you're looking for tips on a budget. So check it out.
What other questions do we have from the live audience? I guess you're still alive if you're talking.
That's
to
true.
us on
That's true.
Instagram.
You are also live. Any questions?
Yes.
In terms of marketing, what would you think is what have you seen as the most effective strategy for small business?
Okay, so Luke asked, what is the most effective strategy for small business in terms of marketing? And let's see, I'm trying to think outside of some of the things that we've talked about already. The Google Business Profile, like I said, is important. I will say I think your website really, really matters. Unless you're like a business that like, you can get away without using a website. I honestly think that's one of the first things that you should do. I have a friend who, he's also an Uptick client, but we were talking recently about how he should kind of get his own like personal brand started. And a lot of people will say like, oh, you got to have this big, huge brand guide. And sometimes you do, but really just getting something up that is a place where all your things can live is really an important starter thing to do, okay? It doesn't have to be a 10-page website. Obviously, I would love it if you worked with Tempo and Infomedia because they're amazing, but maybe you're not even quite ready for that. I mean, there are some things you can do to just have a landing page, okay? If you don't have the ability to do that, you want to create something like that for yourself on social media. And again, not every social media is for every business. If you're doing accounting, Instagram may not be the best place for you to start. It may if you're trying to go that route, but it's going to take you a lot of time, okay? So I want you to find where your audience is online, figure out how to show up there, and if you're one of the rare lucky few who gets to see your audience in person, then figure out where they are there too, but most of the time it's online. So either show up on social media there and create kind of a world for yourself or go into that website. I think that's important. And then, of course, the Google Business Profile, pretty non-negotiable. Any other questions?
And I totally agree with that. And I would add to the website, if you're trying to do a budget website, I think what Laine said is correct. Just go simple. Like, you can definitely, of course we love clients at Tempo and Infomedia, but it's not in everybody's budget. It's not the smart play for every startup business.
Yes.
Like, when you started I Clean Cars, it might not have been your first priority. But just having something really basic, and you can do it yourself and do it cheaper if it is just super, super basic. Like, I just had Hattie O'Hara, who's kind of a Birmingham influencer, on the Localist podcast, and she launched a paid newsletter, or she gets sponsors, but she wanted a website, but she needed to do it herself. And I was like, it actually looks really nice because it's super simple. You just open it up and it's basically a form to go to her newsletter. And I think so many businesses think I have to put the history of the company and my bio and all of this stuff, and you're just burying it further.
Yeah, if you're like really trying to go lean and just build like a network, I've literally put something interesting in a Google Doc before and shared it on LinkedIn. And it doesn't really have analytics, but I do know how many people go to that Google Doc, you know? So there are ways to make these things work for you. It's hard to give, like, again, one advice for all small business because it really depends on your audience and your niche. So that's another thing I would really encourage you is to dig into who you're talking to, where they are, either online or in person, and what do they care about, and even how do they talk. Because again, that goes into making sure you're not speaking language that they don't understand, or you're speaking language that makes you look like you don't get them.
Okay, we do have another question from Instagram, and this is a little off topic, but just using the fact that you're giving free advice, which we also
That's why
welcome.
we're here.
Yeah. So this is the best ways to grow when the Google ad campaigns have come to a screeching halt.
Yeah, I've heard that before. This is super common, and if whoever you are, if you ask this question, you should probably find Matt Robinson. Raise your hand, Matt. He's back there afterwards to get a little more free advice from the guy who taught me everything I know about Google Ads. But I will say, Google is vicious, y'all. We're Google partners. We work with them all day long, every single day. I have a Google partner, Stanley, that I carry around with me all the time. We're drinking the Google Kool-Aid, but at the same time, Google is the worst, okay? And so is Meta, for the record. They're all kind of the worst. But what I mean by that is there are things that will change so often, and Google is not really curating things for you, the small business owner. They're curating things for the people who are spending $150,000, and that's a light budget in Google Ads every month, okay? So the thing I want you to understand is that if you are not following what is going on in Google at all points in time, this will happen to you. A friend of mine tried to set up a Google campaign, and he tried to use Google's like tools to make it easy. I can't remember what it's called, like smart something strategy. Matt could probably tell me, but he tried to do it, and all the things I knew to fix his Google campaign, he was locked out of because Google gatekept those things. And Google said, no, trust us, we've got it. They do not got it. They do not got it, okay? The only reason our Google campaigns that we run for our clients are as successful as they are is because somebody who's a brilliant expert, and frankly, multiple people who are brilliant experts, are sitting around looking at those. So what I want to tell you is, if your Google Ads campaign came to a screeching halt, welcome to the world of Google Ads. I'm not surprised, but follow people who are really in the Google Ads world, the experts, especially ones who aren't like aggressively trying to sell to you. So go follow Matt Robinson, go follow people like that who are talking about Google Ads all the time, because usually it's some weird little trick or gimmick or something that's on the back end of Google that you may not know, or sometimes it's Google turning on things that you didn't agree to them turning on. It's a really nuanced thing. The other biggest thing I would say about Google Ads, and this is just a peek behind the curtain of how the sausage is made. I'm mixing metaphors here. That's for you, Alan. But what I would say is Google, what you decide Google bids on, like if you're running a Google Ads campaign and you say, I want people who are looking for marketing, advertising, or social media marketing, like whatever. Those are the key words, okay? Google might be like, okay, well, what about like magazine ads? That's not really digital advertising. But what Google says is, you said marketing, that works. And I'm like, no. I don't want people who are looking for magazine ads. That's not what we do. That is what Google is doing right now. It's the difference between a search term and a keyword. So if you don't know that and you're running Google Ads, you should. All right, I'm gonna get off my soapbox about that one. That's enough. Any other questions, guys? Right there. Oh, yeah, that's a great question. Yeah, so she's basically asking, like, a lot of people nowadays are saying, like, hey, here's what ChatGPT gave me, can I have that, okay? A couple things I want to mention there, to your credit as a designer. ChatGPT stuff all looks the same, and you saw that in my little mock-ups that came out. There will be a time where that is not the case, but right now, when I go to a website and I can tell that it was built with Claude or ChatGPT, for the record, I can tell every single time. Even if your designer designed it and you mocked it up with AI, I can tell. So the people in the industry can definitely tell. And I actually saw a post this morning about some ads generated with AI where Meta requires now like a tag that says this was made with AI. It's a polarizing thing, okay? What I would say is if you are using AI to do things like that, and I'm not speaking to you because you know this, if you're using AI to do, yeah, if you are using AI to do stuff like this and people can tell that you did, be careful. Because remember, I like playing that numbers game. I want 10 out of 10, and right now, 7 out of 10 are like aware that it's probably AI. 5 out of 10 probably don't like that you're using AI, and 3 out of 10 are going to tell you they will never work with you because you did. I don't care what you feel about AI. I mean, I do care, for the record, I care. But regardless, your customers are going to be all over the place, and you can't serve every customer, but the things that AI is good at is making it clear what you're selling, clear why you need to buy, and clear what to do next. That's all that it's doing that is so impressive to you. Your designers can do that. So to your point of what do we do, I think you should tell people that it's a really polarizing thing, and our job is to make it look like you didn't do that. I don't care if you want to come up with ideas that way, but you really got to make it look different, because it's not necessarily that someone's going to say, I know this was made with AI and I hate it, but just like AI stock imagery kind of gives people the ick sometimes, it's the same kind of thing. They just may feel a little less trusting. And trust me, we're seeing a lot of AI websites right now, so people are going to get real sick of that real fast. I already am. I'm a big AI user. I'm not against it, but it's easy to get sick of, so. One other comment about that, actually, they used to say, like, there's no bad press or whatever. I don't even remember what that phrase is. There is bad press in regards with those kinds of things, especially because the people who hate AI are also really vocal on the internet. So I just always say, if it's a risk you're willing to take, let's go there. Let's do it, you know? But it is a risk.
Well, I'm closing the questions because we're out of time. You can keep asking them on Instagram, though, if you want. And I'll either direct you to the right person or I will let you know what I think. I also have a newsletter, which you can see here. In the newsletter, I'll have links, like if Laine shares the one-liner,
yep.
we'll share that. I also have some links kind of at the bottom of my newsletter. I've done a similar thing to what Laine mentioned, where I just share a lot in Google Docs, and there's a link in every newsletter that's like you can find all the stuff that I've shared with. It's a weekly newsletter, just like really practical tips, and then also I talk about the Localist a little bit. So sign up for that if you would like to. And then also, please listen to the Localist podcast. This is filmed in our podcast studio. You cannot rent these guests. Actually, you might. One of them is here. But we have this studio that this is where we record the Localist, but this is also where we record with clients who want a podcast or clients who want social media or anything like that. So check us out, like if you are interested in anything like that. And also, we have each company kind of around the room. You can kind of see the signs. So if you're interested in podcasts, you want to talk to Infomedia Studios, or you can really grab any of us and just say, like, this is what I want to talk about, and we'll get you to the right person. This talk is going to be available on the Localist podcast in 2 weeks, so check that out if you want to review anything, or if you want to reference anything, or just share it with somebody else that you think might like it. And then we would love to see you back next month. We're going to be back here, same time, same place, same tacos, but not the same tacos, but like the same brand of taco. And next time I'm going to be the speaker. I'm going to talk about practical ways to find part-time help. So we're going to be talking about virtual assistants who are real people, not AI, and also AI assistants. And this topic came from you guys. So last season, this was branded something else, but I did a talk where we talked about our marketing manager left and we had a gap and how we kind of got through that. And part of the way we got through that was by hiring virtual assistants. And I had 5 people come up to me afterward and be like, Where did you find them? How much do they charge? How do I use a virtual assistant? All of that. So we know that you guys want to talk on that, and I'm going to get into all the practicalities of that. But then it also seems silly to not address AI assistants and AI agents also because of the world we live in now. So we're going to talk about the practicalities of both of those. You can get the tickets wherever you got the tickets here or at infomedia.com/events. And we would love to see you next time. Thank you. Thank you so much for listening to this Localist Lab session. Again, if you'd like tickets to the event, check out the show notes. The tickets are free, and we would love to see you there. And as always, whether you're buying from a local business or running one, remember that what you do makes our community stronger every day.